the most important thing that we're going to be dealing with tomorrow is going to be the 2 p.m. release of the FOMC meeting minutes. And really, aside from the many speaking engagements we have from other FOMC members, it's the meeting minutes that gives us a look, sort of a peek behind the curtain to what was discussed at the previous meeting. Now, obviously, when we get the meeting, we get the statement, which is a very well manicured document that tells us in very small variations what it is the Federal Reserve sees. But the meeting minutes is a much rawer discussion of what was discussed. And those meeting minutes are ultimately going to be tested in two fronts. One, does it sound like that is what the FOMC statement said? And does it sound like what Powell said during the press conference on that Wednesday? So this is more like a gut check, right? Are they in line, or do we see a lot of dissenters? Are there any hawks, things like that? So the 2 p.m. hot zone tomorrow could be a significant one. Probably, again, the most significant, except for Friday's, as you can see down here, University of Michigan consumer sentiment, and more importantly, the inflation expectations on Friday. All right, so how do we prepare for something like the FOMC? And then I know a lot of you are saying, Rog, there's another big event tomorrow as well. Agreed, and it's an earnings release from Nvidia. Now, why is Nvidia something we have to look at? Nvidia is not the best looking symbol within semiconductors, right? It's not, but it has earnings, and it's most of the percentage weighting of not only the SMH, it's the number 1 weighted stock, but it's also the number 3 weighted stock in the XLK. So it has the ability to, of course, move semiconductors, SMH, in a very dramatic way. And of course, it has the ability to move the XLK, the technology ETF, equally maybe not equally, but in a very dramatic way based on its weighting. And ultimately, those two sectors, semiconductors and technology, will affect mostly the NASDAQ and secondarily the S&P. But I do want to remind everybody, let's not get too swept up in the fact that Nvidia has earnings, because one of the things I want to mention, and this was a Sector Secrets Mastery trade that we took on the 3rd, I believe, of this month. I have to check the alerts, but yeah, we took it earlier this month, which was the best looking chart in semiconductors. It's still, I'd have to say, mostly Qualcomm. So Qualcomm is likely going to move based on Nvidia too. So think about the dominoes falling on the reverberations. It's like Nvidia is a pebble dropped in the pond, and we're going to get these ripples. The ripple that I'm interested in is, could we get a Qualcomm setup? Qualcomm was a trade that we took on a move where the green candle dipped into the gray zone. And then this particular trade, which at the time cost about $4 per option, we closed out because they were May 17 expiration. These closed out at roughly $15 to $16, depending on how late into that Friday OpEx you decided to scale out. So yeah, I want to find something that's moving with higher highs and higher lows, and that's where Qualcomm comes into focus. Let's also take a look at another pretty decent trend, and I believe it's still an uptrend in SMH, and that's TXN. Keep an eye on TXN as well. So Nvidia is going to move potentially the XLK and the SMH. And then the idea is that movement, that volatility, could set up other better looking stocks. And again, let's not rule out a bigger picture pullback entry on SMH itself. And now I'm not entering these before the Nvidia release. It's about after. As the dust settles, are any of these symbols pulling back? So I keep an eye on SMH, and I keep an eye on the NASDAQ as well. So there you go. Those are going to be, and the NASDAQ might have the kind of distance from the current price action to the daily price movement range, that PMR right here, that gray area. That could be an interesting one for tomorrow to keep an eye on as well. And that's really what we're looking at for the most part as we motor into tomorrow's FOMC and Nvidia earnings. Now, a couple other things to keep an eye on. Let's take a look at the bonds via the long bond here first, which could be traded via ZB futures or the TLT. If we can get a green candle or a yellow candle trading down into the gray zone, this will be tomorrow after 2 p.m. Eastern. So don't front run the event, gang. Wait for the volatility of the event and seize that. Same thing goes with the 10-year. If ZN can get down to the gray area. Now, there's not always, so if we were to look at TLT, TLT has a lot of great liquidity and it's a great proxy for the long bond. There is an ETF for ZN as well for the 10-year. It's IEF, but be careful because it doesn't always have a lot of liquidity in the option chain. Meaning, if I'm waiting for, say, a 92 strike, a call specifically for May 24, it's not even 100 open interest. If I look at the May 31, not looking so good either. If I move out to June 14 or June 21, what I'm looking at is, does the 92 call have any liquidity? And that's not on IEF specifically. You're not going to get any decent liquidity till you get out to the 21 June. But I don't mind that as a potential setup. And then equally, if we can get a TLT move down to, let's see where and I'm approximating this because the daily price movement ranges by design update every single day. So tomorrow at the bell, I'll have a fresh set of zones. It'll look roughly in the vicinity of where these do, but I'd keep an eye on maybe a 90 or the 89 strike TLTs for June 21. Take a look at TLT. And again, all of this is using the catalyst of the FOMC meeting minutes. That is the game plan for tomorrow's 2 p.m. hot zone, and I'll see you in the next update. Hey traders, Raghee from Simpler Trading. Thank you so much for watching this video. Be sure to leave a like and a comment below. And remember, subscribe and click the bell icon so you'll get notified of the next update. And when you're ready to join me for live trading, be sure to head on over to simplertrading.com. I'll see you in the next update.